上当百年，欺世大官。
In 1950, a 40-year-old deputy battalion commander of the Communist Army, Zhang Xinzhong, came to the town of Maotai with 12 soldiers to take over the local brewery and to set up a new distillery. Before our program starts, we still kindly ask all the new viewers to support us. Please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click on the little bell that reminds you of the updates of our shows. Thank you. The largest brewery in the town of Maotai used to be the Jiesheng Brewery, which was founded in 1704 and had an annual output of 60 tons, accounting for about 2/3 of the total output of the town of Maotai. When the Kuomintang government retreated to Taiwan in 1949, all the brewers were taken away. Together with the brewing recipe, the aged brew stored for many years, the stones in the cellar, the wine starter making equipment, the storage containers, the water samples, the seeds, the plants and microbiota around the brewery, and even all the soil inside and outside the brewery was dug up and taken away. After Jiesheng Brewery was moved to Taiwan, the brewers spent several years searching for a suitable site. The final choice was a valley near the confluence of Da'an Creek and Dajia Creek, around the surrounding mountains in Taichung City. In 1962, the first batch of Maotai wine was produced, which was then used as a celebratory wine. In addition to the ruins of Jiesheng Brewery, only 3 slightly larger breweries in the town of Maotai at that time, Ronghe, Chengyi, and Hengxing. With the invasion of the Communist Army in 1952, the prestigious Ronghe Brewery was confiscated by the Communist Party in the so-called Socialist Transformation and given only a symbolic compensation of 500 yuan. Chengyi Brewery was so-called redeemed and Hengxing Brewery was confiscated as well. The communists then forcibly merged them to create a state-run Maotai distillery, and the Ronghe trademark was replaced with Maotai wine. Maotai wine was born from then on, and the story of throwing a bottle of wine to prosper national prestige was also then misplaced. The worst thing was that the owner of the Ronghe Brewery, Wang Pingqian, refused to merge with the state-run Maotai distillery, which in the eyes of the communists was a rebellion against the Communist Party and disobedience to the socialist transformation. Guess what? The bandit party did not hesitate to rob people of their business, but also put the boss Wang on the charge of possession of guns, suspected of collaborating with criminals, and executed by shooting in 1951. However, when you check on Baijiu, there is only a simple sentence saying that Mr. Wang died in 1951. Wang Bingqian was the 4th generation descendant of Wang Mao's founder, Mr. Wang Rong. He brewed the legendary Maotai wine, known as Wang Mao, which was the one who won the gold medal at the 1915 Panama World's Fair. Now, the creator has been dead for years, but his wine is still being enjoyed by the communists who killed him. Isn't it creepy when you think about it? Because of Mao's Great Leap Forward policy and the deception of senior communist officials, China suffered a 3-year famine from 1959 to 1961, in which at least 30 million people died of starvation. In order to evade his own responsibility, the Communist Party insisted that this man-made disaster be characterized as a natural disaster. However, during these 3 years, the production of Maotai wine increased dramatically, with a total production of 2,079 tons, and of which 1,939 tons were for domestic consumption. It was certainly not for the common people to enjoy. It is common knowledge among the Chinese people that a lot of grain is needed to make wine. So, how much grain did the state-run Maotai distillery consume during the famine? The magazine Yanghui Chunqiu reveals that the actual grain used in those 3 years was 22.6 million jin. According to the statistics of raw grain used by the Maotai distillery over the years, including 10.85 million jin of sorghum and 11.75 million jin of wheat, the total will convert into 11,300,000 tons. While a large number of common people were starved to death, the top communist officials ordered the production of so much Maotai wine. Imagine how many human lives were soaked in this pool of national wine at that time. Local elders recall that before 1949, war, banditry, natural disasters, and man-made disasters occurred almost every year. Every village has encountered things like a temporary shortage of food during the Republican period. It's a fact that poverty was widespread. However, widespread hunger and death had never heard of. In 1937, The Guizhou provincial authorities of the nationalist government issued the rules for punishment of brewing violations. Among them, it was forbidden to make wine, boil sugar, and cloth making with grain during natural disasters and food shortages. In addition to the confiscation of the wine and the sealing of the equipment, those who violate the rules shall be punished by a fine of not less than 2 times and not more than 4 times the local price of wine, according to the amount of wine brewed, and by a fine of not less than 4 times and not more than 8 times the local price of wine for a second offense. The population in the hometown of Maotai Wine, Renhuai County, isn't too big, with about 200,000 farmers and about 300 jin of grain per capita annually during the 3-year famine. If the grain used to produce Maotai wine were used for relief of food shortage, each person will have received an additional average share of about 100 jin. In other words, 279 tons of Maotai wine was equal to about 4 months of rations for 200,000 people. And with some wild vegetables, there will be no problem surviving the most dangerous spring famine, which means that by stopping making wine at that time, more people could have been pulled out of the swamp of hunger and death. However, the communists would starve the people to death in order to satisfy their own appetites. In 1958, the communist bandit leader Mao gave this instruction to the former first secretary of the Guizhou Provincial Party Committee, Zhou Enlai: "You get 10,000 tons and make sure the quality is good." It is said that the Maotai wine produced in that year was really high in quality and had a collector's value. The earthenware bottle of Maotai produced in 1958 had the highest price of liquors in China's history for 1.456 million yuan. Look, do you think that the communists have thought about the Chinese people's lives? After talking about the past and present life of Maotai wine, then let's talk about Zhou Enlai and Maotai wine. Why single him out? Because among the top communist officials, the seemingly incorruptible Zhou Enlai can be said as a big fan of Maotai. The show about revealing the true face of Zhou Enlai will be launched later. According to some sources, Zhou Enlai had 25 glasses of Ronghe wine in a glass of more than 1 tael during the so-called Long March of the Red Army through the town of Maotai. In 1949, when the main wine for the first banquet of the founding was being finalized, Zhou Enlai was promoting hard on using Maotai. The article on Xinmin Evening News on February 14, 2001, it was recorded that during the so-called natural disasters in the 1960s, when the literary and artistic circles were holding meetings in Beijing, Zhou Enlai invited everyone to take a break for a few days in the Western Hill and invited them to drink Maotai wine. Unknowingly, people at several tables drank several bottles of Maotai wine, and Zhou Enlai himself drank about 7 taels of Maotai. When they were flushed, the article said, it was already devastated outside. The article of the magazine Yang Huang Chunqiu revealed that when it came to diplomatic banquets, Zhang Wentian was against big meals and drinks, while Zhou Enlai strived for luxury and to have shark fins and sea cucumbers with Maotai served at every banquet. Liu Ying was the widow of Zhang Wentian, who was former first vice minister of foreign affairs of the Communist Party. As per Liu Ying's claim, the extravagant dishes were served at a banquet hosted by Zhou to Prince Sihanouk of Cambodia in exile in Beijing in 1970. In an article entitled The Cultural Symbols of Maotai Wine, culture scholar Zhu Dake also said that it was based on Zhou's personal taste that Maotai was able to win over 4 major Chinese liquors, Fengjiu, Xifeng, and Dukang, and become the highest liquor in the politics of the dining table. Photos of Zhou Enlai entertaining Kissinger, Nixon, and Tanaka Kakui with Maotai are also evidence of communist Maotai diplomacy. Zhu Dake also revealed such a thing. In 1959, the alcoholic ink painter Fu Baoshi was called to Beijing to paint the glorification of the Communist Party's giant painting, a land so rich in beauty. Zhou ordered to provide Fu Baoshi with a bottle of Maotai every day to provide alcohol motivation for the arduous climb up and down the painting. According to this method of drinking, Fu Baoshi drank about 220 bottles of Maotai during the 4-month-long painting period. According to today's price of a bottle of premium Maotai valued at 3,000 yen, so the total price was about 360,000 yuan. If according to the auction price of 1.05 million yuan per bottle of Maotai in 1959, Fu Baoshi had Maotai worth of 126 million yuan in 1959. Recently, the mainland China's economy is in awful atmosphere, just like the self-proclaimed pillar of the country. On the homepage of Guizhou Maotai Group, a bottle of wine to save the country is being speculated on the internet. This kind of twisted posture before the death of the CCP is really ugly. As if by a joke, some people say that a stock of wine is actually the most expensive, which is an insult to the Chinese technology industry. Some people say that people who buy Maotai do not drink Maotai. People who really drink Maotai simply do not have to buy their own. Some people say more solid, expensive, not Maotai's fault. Poor, it is your fault. Back then, when countless people in the Communist Party were struggling for a mouthful of food, Zhou Enlai and the Communist Party tried their best to make wine at the expense of the people in order to whitewash the situation and satisfy their personal desires. What kind of prime minister was he? Now, in order to save power and not to collapse too early, the CCP is playing a sideshow to save the country with Maotai, desperately trying to create momentum and misappropriate money. How is this a service to the people? Therefore, we the Chinese people, it is better to wake up now. The story of the blood and tears of Maotai is finished. Let me share a true experience to everyone. More than 30 years ago, when counterfeit wine was not too rampant, I bought a bottle of Maotai from the special supply point of the Communist Party's highest authorities, probably no more than 10 yuan, but it was also a large part of the salary at that time. However, after drinking it, I really did not have any amazing feeling, but rather comparable to other Chinese liquors such as Wuliangye and Luzhou Laojiao wines that I had drank. Now it seems that if the Chinese people want to drink and taste the wine that won Panama Gold Medal in 1915, I'm afraid it has to wait until the mainland is restored and returned to Maotai masters and their heirs, who were treated by the Republic of China government like a national treasure. I hope that by then, we will be able to drink the real people's national wine, and it will be even better if we only have to spend about the same price as Beijing's Arguoto. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think I'm talking in my sleep? Anyway, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Deception of the World before you leave your seats. See you in the next episode. Thank you for watching.